Common violations, okay? Not replacing information systems, security patches, product updates when support is end of life. The two largest disasters we had in the US that I'm going to talk about tomorrow are because of that one number thing up there. Bad patches with no ability to recover. No redundant data center to recover because of a patch. The data center didn't burn down. The hurricane didn't blow it away. It didn't flood. Ice didn't break all the communication lines. It didn't have a volcano started on fire. It was because somebody was in there doing their patches and their upgrades like they're supposed to, and it caused two very critical applications that had a huge impact on two events within our country that caused it to go down, okay? And even if it did go down, they didn't have the ability to recover from a secondary site, okay? Lack of control over facility access to the data center, the equipment, and secure data. We were talking at lunch about your data center where they were taping the doors, right? You had somebody in working on the data center, and instead of using the key card or the access, I don't know what you have, to go in and out, they taped the doors open. Okay? So you didn't know who was going in and out of the data center at that point, right? Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's not that big of a deal, but there it is, right? Monitoring and management. So there's no alerts or events of a failure. How many of you have monitoring and management of your power, some sort of DCIM tool, your power, your cooling? Okay, that's good. You want to have that. Configuration management, okay? Again, the top one there with the patches, this company had no configuration management tool, so they weren't following when they're going to make changes in configuration. So somebody went out and made the configurations, they made the updates, and boom, two significant failures, okay? Testing of security systems. Look at the last one, data center disaster recovery plan, okay? The data center disaster recovery plan, don't think of it as the hurricanes or all these things we've heard about. Think of it as one application goes down, I have to recover that one application. Because that one application could be what the doctors need that somebody's going to die. Or that one application could be the breach that now my retail store has hundreds of thousands of people credit card that got access. Okay? You have to think in those types of terms. Disaster recovery is not what everybody thinks is big fire and all this other. It's because some guy with a backhoe cut something out back, or somebody does a patch that isn't right and now that application is down and you can't access the information. It's those types of things that are going to kill your company and hurt you the most, okay? Storage and data classification. Anybody in IT in here? Anybody know if you have data classification? Do you? So you know what to recover first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, and what's most important and what's not? Yep, it could be cyclical. Very much so. Even time of month sometimes, depending on what the organization is. Yep. Exactly, and how much you keep, and do you have do you actually have a data retention policy, and do you follow the policy, and do you monitor and manage that policy, right? And the last one here, incomplete documentation of processes and procedures. Okay? We go talk to people. Technical people love technical stuff. Engineers love to design stuff. They love to talk about all the stuff. They're terrible at writing things down. If Bob gets hit by a truck tomorrow, do you have all the documentation in your data center to show that you're meeting all the compliancy? Or is it all in Bob's head? Bob can explain it and go through it all, but is it documented? That's a big thing that is missing a lot of times is documentation. Because if you get an audit or you're going through an audit, it's going to show me it. Now realize it's not a book that you lay out anymore, right? It's documentation within your, stored electronically, digitally, and you got a second one that's maybe at a second data center, or somebody's got it on a jump drive, or whatever your security thing is that you have backup of it, right? But it's the documentation that they're going to look at from that perspective. Compliance and documentations, okay? Do you comply with the requirement? Okay, I think you had mentioned you've been through a compliance audit. It's not a lot of fun to figure out even if you comply by the end, right? It's a challenge. But at least the documentation, everything that I showed up here, by the way, is available online. Okay? It's not hidden out there. It's on there, and it shows what they're going to look at, what they're going to do, how they're going to grade you. It's all up there. Okay? So look through that. Understand, can you or can you not comply with that requirement? At least be prepared on it. And then the second is the documentation to prove that you are compliant. Okay? And again, it's not stacks of files like the picture is. That's just there for effect, right? It's have all of it documented in some sort of documentation that's stored electronically, and you have multiple copies of it. Again, multiple copies of it. Okay, so if one gets corrupted, one gets lost, you have another one, because it's a lot of work to put it together. When you get it done the first time, then it's only updates as you go through each time you could secondly have to have an audit, a compliance audit or review. Okay. Last one, these are things that I just put up here to think about when you go back. Okay, what standards is your organization required to comply with? Because that's the biggest thing, again, that we find. People don't even know that they're supposed to be complying to this, and ignorance is not going to get you out of it when it comes around. Or if something major happens with your organization, as we've talked about several, that now they're on the national news and they've had a public issue, you don't want that to have happen, right? Do your methods and capabilities and your facilities, okay, do they meet the standard that your company must apply to? The way you're going to do that is figure out which ones, on the first one, really, does this apply to us, yes or no? If it applies to us, go pull up the compliancy checklist of what you're going to get audited on. You can pull those up online and go through them and look through them and see where you fit. And then the third thing is, what is it going to take to do the documentation or evidence to support that? Because that's what they're going to look at. They're not going to say, oh, yeah, Bob's over here. He knows it. It's all great. He can tell us how to do it. That doesn't mean anything unless it's documented. And it's a policy within your company and ways that you follow within the company.